Hey everybody, welcome back to Dinosaur Cars Garage. Why Dinosaur Cars Garage? Well, I'm Tim, I'm your host, I'm a dinosaur. The cars I work on are all dinosaurs, and ironically they're all fueled, lubricated, and pretty much everything in the car has oil in it, or oil to produce it, so it too consists of dinosaurs. So put a little play in the name, spelling dinosaur with a Y instead of an I. You know, for engine dyno and all that, just a little bit of play on the name, just to be a little bit different, like Led Zeppelin and Def Leppard and stuff like that, you know, bands like that. So hopefully you like those groups. But yeah, what I'm going to do today is show you some of the cars I have, let you know some history on them. Last video I did, I went up to Desert Valley Auto Parts in Black Canyon City. And I said a couple times during that video, each car in there has a story. There was a happy mom, dad, son, family, young kid, first car, happy to drive it off the lot, goes and shows it all to his buddies. And, each car is kind of to me, car, truck, or anything is like its own living history itself until it's unfortunately discarded, meets its demise in the junkyard to get cannibalized, picked apart, and unfortunately eventually crushed. But so I got 3 old cars here that I have. My first video I did, I explained about the 61 Corvette that we have. My wife and I got that in 2004. But I'm going to focus on the other 2 cars because those are the ones I'm going to be working on here. I live in Arizona, so it's going to start getting hot soon. So the cruising scene kind of dwindles off from about June until October, beginning of October, when the cooler days start to happen, because around June it gets to be 100 degrees for about 100 days, believe that or not. I come from Pennsylvania, so to me 100 here is not bad. People are like, 100 degrees, but there's no humidity. I never say it's a dry heat, I just say it's different. But doesn't matter to me whether it's hot or not. The cars, if they have a close to factory cooling system, I don't know how they survived back in the 60s and 70s here in Phoenix. The Corvette I came from a show the other summer, and I figured, I just got to get out on the road and get out of traffic and cruise along. And it was in the high 80s when I left to go to the show. When I left the show, it was about 100, and I drove home and it just stayed hot. So every time I got a chance, I'd kick it in neutral and just turn off the key and let it cool down that way a little bit, and was able to limp it home that way. But that was about the last I drove the Corvette last year until the fall. But enough saying about that. What I like to do with the show, with this channel, is just keep it light, keep it fun. I don't want the videos to be super long. I don't want people to lose interest or anything. Everybody doesn't have an hour time to dedicate an hour to a show or to an episode. So depending what I'm working on, I'll try to do it in some segments. So yeah, I forget where I was going there. So this is probably a skip area. But what I'll do is I'll give you a little bit of history, a little bit of the history of the cars I'm going to be working on, how long I've had them, what they are. You probably saw them if you saw the other video that they were covered up. But we'll go out here. I got one pushed outside, out in the sun, and we'll go over there and see that car. One thing I did want to say is what I'd like to do with the channel here is work on some old American hot rods and put a little bit of car movie trivia and a little bit of fun in there from car movies everybody in the car scene likes. Not up into the Fast and Furious years. I'm talking movies from the late 60s, 70s, 80s. Hollywood Nights, American Graffiti, and just some of the trivia. I love the movie Hot Rod, made-for-TV movie I talked about during the Corvette roof painting episode. Smokey and the Bandit, just anything that's cars and big trucks and all that nostalgia for me that helped. TV shows that back when I was a kid, before I could drive, I would watch these movies on TV and go, I want to be that guy. I want to be like Burt Reynolds, or I want to be like Milner, or Tony Danza in 57 Chevy in Hollywood Nights, Milner in American Graffiti, and so over the years, I've owned over 40 vehicles, whether they were daily drivers or old cars. A lot of them that I bought like that, I would flip, but I couldn't afford these cars in today's market. You know, I'll explain when I got the cars and what I paid for them, and I mean what I have in them now. I'm well into the black if I would ever sell them. So the only time they're going to get sold is after I'm dead and gone, and my wife sells them. So yeah, so let's get out there and get looking at them. All right, so here's my 1960 Chevy BelAir. I bought this in 1985. There was no internet then. Believe that, you young guys. There was no internet to find cars. You had to find a car that you wanted through local publications, cars for sales, want ads in the paper. I remember there was a periodical that came out. I don't know if it was once a month or once a week or whatever. It was nationwide, I believe. It was called Auto Roundup. See cars in there for sale. And Hemmings was a monthly publication. But if it was in Hemmings, it was basically, Hemmings was the Barrett Jackson back in the day of printed publications. Barrett Jackson, if it was in there, it was way out of price. More or less, it was way overpriced and out of reach for young kids. So I would buy one of those magazines and sit in study hall or beginning of school or before school started, and I'd look through and circle ads, and that's the one I want, and only have a few $100s in my savings account. But I was 15, it didn't matter. I just kept saving. So I saw photos, and I'll try to drop a photo in here of it. I saw photos of my dad's 60 Chevy Impala he bought new in, I believe it was June of 1960. He ordered it new around Easter, around April, and bought one new, ordered it with a 348 and a 4-speed, and they had just come out with the 348 with 350 horsepower. It had a newer solid lift cam and 3 2-barrels. The baby brother to that engine was the same cam, but it had a 4-barrel, single 4-barrel, and it had a 340 horse. So it was just 10 horsepower less without the 3 2s. So I saw photos of this car, and I thought, oh, Dad, I want to get one of those. I want to get one of those. So, of course, I can't find them. No internet. Can't find 60 Chevys. The ones I find in the junkyards are all 4 doors. They're smashed up. They're bad. In Pennsylvania, they were all rusty. So I get to turn 16, and my parents know I wanted a Chevelle, a Nova, a Camaro, one of these cars, anything. It didn't matter. I just wanted a hot rod. I wanted to be John Milner or somebody cool, you know, riding around in that hot car. I lived in Lebanon, Pennsylvania, had a really good cruising circuit. So my friend Rick Garloff, who has he has a YouTube channel as well. Check it out sometime. It's called Redneck Manufacturing, Redneck MFG. He's in Harbison, Delaware. He creates some pretty cool stuff. He's actually he rebuilds some heavy equipment, smaller heavy equipment. He's doing a John Deere 350 dozer right now, and he did a couple of skid loaders and Farmall Cubs and just a bunch of other neat stuff. Check it out sometime. But getting back to the car here, so I turned 16, and my parents end up making me buy a 67 Volkswagen Bug. Wah, wah, wah. And, you know, they knew how to play head games before I knew how to play them back. And they're like, well, if you don't get this car, we're not going to let you on our insurance, and yada, yada, yada. So I was sort of forced into getting it. So anyway, I pounded that thing into the ground, and it lasted about a year. And I learned to pull the engine out of that thing in about a half an hour. It was pretty easy. It was pretty easy to do. So I sort of learned to start to work on cars by having that, because my dad got tired of helping me always fix it because I was beating the snot out of it. So November of that year, I find this car. A friend of mine's dad told me about it, where it was, and he thought it was a 59, and I wanted either a 59 or a 60, and I'm glad it was a 60 because that was my favorite year of the two. And I ended up going to find it. It was in a farmer's, at a house of a farmer. It was in his side yard, a side of, I believe, a 50 Ford. It was sitting there, and I knocked on the door, and the lady goes, oh, people want to buy this all the time, and they don't want to give us anything for it. So anyway, I haggled with him, and I ended up getting it for $250. So we towed home with a tow bar in neutral, And of course I didn't tell my dad because he told me not to buy it. I bought it anyway. So then my mom found out I had it and freaked out, said, "You're selling it back to him." Well, he didn't want it back either. So luckily I was able to swindle him, talk him into it, and I kept it. So my dad left me keep it in the back of the warehouse of his beer distributor that he had. And I started to tear it apart and learn how to cut my teeth on working on cars. So it was originally suntan copper. I'll show a spot of the original color on it. It was suntan copper, and it had rust. The rear quarters, front and back, a little bit above the wheel well. The fender heel had a little bit of rust on it. These eyebrows here, you can see a little bit of crack here in the Bondo, but that triangulated space here was all rotted out. This side you can see the body filler popped out. So the guy that helped me paint it was when MIG welders were starting to come out, middle 80s, and they were really expensive then to get. So he brazed everything in, and the brazing actually makes the body putty not adhere as well, and it kind of corrodes underneath there and makes it split. So this is actually getting kind of bad, but I don't know. The car's been painted since 1986. So he sprayed it for me my senior year of high school, and I thought I want to get it done for high school. It had BelAir emblems on the side here. So it's a 60 Chevy BelAir. The Biscaynes have have less chrome than this, and this has less chrome than an Impala. And all the Impalas were a hardtop. They were not a sedan. So he painted it in 1986 for me. I was able to drive it my last week of school, senior year. The interior wasn't done, but it was copper. Everything was copper. He painted the dash for me, and he'd work on it about 3 or 4 hours a day for about 2 days a week in the back of the beer distributor, and he'd give me stuff to do, what I could do to it to help him along. And it took a good while, but it's a 20 or maybe even a 50 footer. Still getting a little faded here, but it's Roman red, and it was suntan copper. The car was built in Baltimore by the VIN. It was built in Baltimore. It was a 283 Power Glide car. So I get it together, and on a budget of probably peanuts by today's standards. I think I made around $4 an hour working for my dad over summers, and I paid Lou, his name was Lou Colavani, I paid him more, of course, to be a body man than I made in a day to work on the car, to get it ready for body. So we ended up painting it, again, summer of '86, until I got everything together. So the 283, I didn't know anything about cars, of course, listened to what all these old timers and my dad would tell me, and he said, "Oh, well, you're not going to find a 348, because they just weren't around. You couldn't find them. They were all hidden away. Nor could I afford them on my shoestring budget." So he goes, the 57 Chevys in 57 had 2 4-barrels on them. They made 270 horsepower. And they all, him and his buddies all called them 270 Chevys. I'm like, what's a 270? Well, 270 Chevy was 283 solid cam, 2 4-barrels. They were in the Corvettes. They were in 57 Chevys. And they ran pretty good. And if they were geared right, they would actually give the 348 cars with 3 speeds, if they had 3 speeds, they'd give them a good run for their money if they were geared right and the 348 car was geared wrong, because that torque just, you know how gearing works, So if they had 456s in a 57 with a 283 and that 270 horse, and get that thing wound up and get out of the hole with 456 gears, and you got a 60 Chevy with a 355 in it and a 3-speed, it's going to take a while to get going. The 60 is probably going to catch him at the finish line, depending how bad they spun. So we ended up going down to a speed shop who had a 283 that was bored 60 over. It was out of 62 Chevy, and I ended up getting that short block, the whole short block put together, new pistons, boards are 60 over. I just had to put a cam in it, and I got that for $400. So I gave him my 283 as a core. Here a guy had took that engine there, and then that's what he owed. He owed $400, and he wouldn't come back, and it was years. So I got it for $400. We slipped a cam in it. The heads I had, they were just those 283 Power Pack heads or whatever they were. Took those down, just had a 3-angle valve job done on it. We went to Carlisle and bought a 2 4-barrel setup. and then the quest was to find 2 WCFB carburetors, and they didn't work so good because they weren't paired together, and it would make your eyes water in the garage. It just ran so rich, but it was so slow. And I played around with gears. I had a 350 turbo behind it with a small stall converter in it, and you might have had a 2000 stall, and I wanted to go to the drags, and it would only go into the 16s. I think I had a set of 370s in it, and I got like a 1570 out of it then, and I was going to try to get 456 or 411s for it, but I just knew that the 283 couldn't compete with my buddies and cruising around town and light to light. It was a dog. So my friends worked at a body shop, and they said their dad had a 454 from a Suburban that their dad changed, and it had about 100,000 miles on it. So I bought that for about $450. Slipped a cam in that, a performer intake from Edelbrock, and left the left the quadrajet on it, and used manifolds, put it behind the 283. The 350 turbo was behind the 283, and ran that. And I was able to get that to go with 370 gears. I was able to get that to go 1413 at Maple Grove Raceway. And I have some old nostalgic stickers here on it. So it went 1413. Well, I didn't realize after having that 283 in here, I didn't really, because I was young, I was 18 or 19. I think I was about 19 at the time. And I would spin the 283. That thing would wind way high up into the like 7,000 range, and without floating the valves or anything, it would just pull. And that's kind of where I got it out of the hole, and I would just wind her out. And so that 454 only had a 5,500 RPM limit. Still had the stock springs in it, and ended up breaking a push rod, collapsing a lifter, and bending one rocker and breaking another. So I fixed it, got it back together, and I mustn't have torqued the intake right. So I moved it over the winter time, and it just was smoking like a fiend. And I didn't realize this at the time, so it was just smoking like crazy. So I figured, well, the engine's shot. So I pull it out, 1989 or late 88, and I pull it out and take it to Trim's Automotive in Lebanon. And back then, you could rebuild an engine fairly inexpensive for about $1,500. So I go to Bob at Trim's and told him I want to have about 12-to-1 compression, because race gas was relatively affordable then. It's like $3.25 or $3.50 at the track. Regular gas was around a $1.25 or $1.35 for regular super unleaded for unleaded super, and I usually mixed it like 50-50. So I wanted like 11. I think I wanted 11-to-1 compression. I wanted to balance, just go over the heads and put a good cam in it. And I was just hoping for, like low 13s or whatever. And he'd call up, and we got to this. Well, do you want better guide? You want better push rods? You want better guide plates? Yes, 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 and all that. So anyway, my engine's done around April of 1989. My bill was $2,608, which was a ton of money. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, man, I was only budgeting for like $1,500, and I think I'd given him $700 or $800 down. So I had to go to a bank and borrow the rest of the money. I think I borrowed around $1,200 to finish paying him off, and so I had about $108 a month payment for a year to pay that off. So I stuck that in, got Hooker Super Comp headers for it. It had a crane cam in it that was like 585 lift, 780 Holley vacuum secondary, and it had SST wheels on it at the time, Traeger SSTs. So then my problem came. I ended up having a transmission built, put a 3000 stall in it, manual valve body, 350 turbo, and my problem was it kept breaking axles. So I was scouring every junkyard that I could find for a 58 to 64 Chevy left driver's side axle, so the left axle. So it got to the point that I would actually degrease the axle, paint a line on it, and pull it after every time I go to the track to see if it started to twist. And before I moved here to Arizona, I had a section of axle that had 3 passes on it that I snapped. And the problem was the right tire here, the right tire would preload when I would hold the brake in and bring the stall up. and the left side had a little bit of play in the clutch packs in the posi, and that wheel on launch would give a partial revolution, the posi would kick in, and it would shock that axle on the left side as it applied power, and it snapped the axle. It would snap the axle. So I'd actually snapped one at the track one time. They had an event there called King of the Street at Maple Grove. King of the Street. And I actually had to go back to had to get a ride because I drove the car to the track. Had to go all the way back to Lebanon from Reading, and go all the way back from Lebanon from Reading to get a spare axle that I had that had a twist in it but was still good, just so I could drive the car home. But anyway, guys got quicker, cars got faster. 1989, I was kind of one of the faster cars in Lebanon at the time. I mean, you got to figure at that time, Mustang GTs were just coming out, and the kids that bought them could barely afford the payment, let alone do a lot of modifications to them. So they just put off-road exhaust on them, Flowmaster mufflers, of course, and they'd bump the timing, and those cars would go. Some of them they could get into the high 13s, but most of them were 14.0, 14 teen cars. So I'd get a kid running around Lebanon, and I'd see a new car and say, "Hey, you want to run that?" And I see this big old red car, and like, "Yeah, what do you got in it?" And I'd say, "I don't know, I just got it. It has like a 382 in it or something." And he'd, "Oh, you mean a 283? Yeah. Well, what do you got?" And the 50, 302. Well, you want to race? And race them for money back then. It was 20, 25 bucks. And clean up on them, and then their buddy who had a little bit faster car, he'd come out looking for me the next weekend. And so I won a lot of street races with this, sometimes for no money, sometimes for money, but it was a real fun car to have in that time of my life. It was a good season of my life. So anyway, the other guys in Lebanon with the faster cars, they saw what can be done if you just spend a little bit more money than $1,500 and there was a bunch of guys with Pontiacs and of course the Chevy guys. Nitrous wasn't really a big thing then, but it was coming, and I decided to change cams in it. So I got an Ultradyne solid cam and pulled the engine out, took it to a machine shop so I could have it degreed, pulled the head and checked piston to valve clearance. Springs were good. The springs that I had in it for the 585 crane cam, the hydraulic that was in it that we pulled out, they were enough, so I put that in. So in the old setup with the 780 Holly and the hydraulic cam, I think the best it went was like 1260s, something like that. I put 411s in it, and then I changed to the Ultradyne cam, and it didn't pick me up that much. I can't really remember without looking through the time slips. I have a stack of time slips like this from Maple Grove and some of the other surrounding tracks, Cecil County, Mason-Dixon, New Media. I went to a lot of tracks. I had so many tracks, 50, 80 miles from Lebanon. It was great. Out here in Arizona, there's two. There's one in Phoenix that's hardly ever open. That's Firebird. And then Tucson, which is like 2 hours away. So someday I'll get to one of those tracks. But so I slipped this other cam in it. And of course, the rear end problem isn't going away. It's not going to fix itself. So I had a friend of mine who was parting out a 67 or 68 Impala SS, and he had the bucket seats, he had a console, he had everything. I was like, "Brian, you know what you're parting out here? This car's kind of rare." He's like, "I don't care, they just want rid of it. What parts do you want?" So it had a 12-bolt rear in it and it had a posi. It was posi. So I bought it. I think I paid around $100 for it. Get home, pull the cover off, and it had 411s, and of course, like I said, had a posi in it. So I took that rear to Trims. I pulled the rear out of this, took that to Trims Automotive. They cut off my old brackets. They told me that they'd put them back on the way that they were, but that was virtually impossible out of the car. So he hands me a box of brackets. He narrows the rear. I had him do it, put it an inch narrower on each side, and then I got these wheels which were the same size. They look like, I believe they're 15x8 center lines. I don't know what the back spacing is. They were on a 70 to 72 Camaro that I got from a guy. I think I paid $100 for the set. Mercury tires were on it. Back then we used to run Mickey Thompson, the Indy Profile Super, the SS. They were really good tires. They called them hot and stickies. I was able to get those to hook up on here. But anyway, these tires are now called American Racer. So if you check out their page. Look for the street stock style tires, and you can find those there. These are G6015s. I got another car here that I've run them on, and you can run a 285 6015 on like a Chevelle, a Camaro, Chevelle Camaro GTO, something like that, with a 15x10 wheel. But getting back to this, so I slide the rear under it. We have it up on jack stands, and a guy named Eric helped me, and we got it in and got it square. Measure twice, measure 3 times, and get it and get it square. And once it was square, we set the pinion angle, and then we tack welded each of the brackets on, and still checked it out. So and then we did the panhard bar. So we did the upper, the lower. So this has like a kind of like a 3-link on. It's got a panhard bar across the back. It's got the 2 track bars on the bottom, and then 1 at the top. So there's only really three control arms that control the rear. The panhard bar just stops it from swaying. But no, it works. It worked good. And then we pulled it down and burned it in. So that being said, took it to the track with probably what the main help was. I got rid of those heavy SS steel Super Street Tricks, the chrome ones. I got rid of those and put these aluminum wheels on. And I think a 12 bolt's a little bit more efficient than the 9-inch style 8.2 that was rear that was originally in here, front loader pumpkin style rear. And it went 12.19 on a hot day. So had I taken it there in October, early November day, or taken it to Cecil County, which was at sea level, I probably could have got this thing well into the 11s. So that was pretty much the history on that. On that. So I didn't change anything. That was middle 90s. It was around 1995, I think I did the rear. So then nothing changed. I just left the car as it is. I got married in 1996, so house, things like that come along. So the hot rods kind of got put on the back burner. So I kept it the way that it was for a long time. Just drove it, took it to cruise nights. And then I moved. I had a trucking company and had a 50 by 100 foot shop, so I had plenty of room. I thought this will be great. Can work on the trucks, got room for the cars and all that, and have my own trucking business and running the road, and didn't have any time to work on a car. So I'd hop in it once in a while and take it for a ride, and it lost oil pressure about 3,000 RPMs and up. Well, after fast forwarding, we pulled it out and tore it apart, and here there was a sliver of metal that got in the oil pump that was holding the little spring relief open or closed part way or whatever, so it would just bypass a lot of the pressure. So threw a set of bearings in it, new oil pump, left it as it was on the stand, and then I found this on eBay. So I found a 348, a 1960 348. It came out of a convertible. Excuse the dust and the grime right now. There's plans for this. So I thought I wanted to turn this car into like a junior stocker type thing. So I had this 348 built for it. Teasdale Machine Shop in Jonestown, Pennsylvania did it for me. It's 30 over, it's balanced. I got 10-to-1 compression pistons in it. It's got a 409 425 horsepower cam in it, so it's not real wild. It doesn't have a ton of duration, but it's got 525 lift, I think, straight across. Just stock heads. I had them port matched for the intake. It's got L Brock Performer on it. They either make a single 4 or 2 4s. I just wanted the one on here. Doug's Tri-Y headers, and it's factory. This should be close to 300. Well, not factory. With the 3.2s, it should have been 350 horse. So I stuck 350 emblems, stickers on it. Most of these engine parts and everything I got from Show Cars Automotive out of New Ulm, Minnesota. Converted it to a generator. It's got Pertronix ignition system in it. 650 Holley. Got a Holley blue pump on it from before. Then I stuck a Muncie behind it. So this car being an automatic, it was all the parts were available, but it was just a fun change to change it up. The interior is from 1986, 87, and 87 I guess it would be. I just put the carpet in before we moved, and it has a Muncie 21 in it. So I had to find clutch pedals for it, put those in. Still smells the same after all these years. But this car had 106,000 miles on it when I bought it. And all the cruising around, about 6 miles out of lap. I think it's around 138,000 miles on it now. $134,000. So just a little bit of 60 Chevy trivia for you. If you look at DD Speed Shop on, and I knew this before I found this YouTube channel, but DD Speed Shop, he takes two-door sedan cars, mostly 55, 6, and 7 Chevys. He'll take those four-door cars and he'll turn them into a two-door. A four-door on a 60 Chevy, 55, 6, 7, 58, 59, 60, even up into the BelAir years in 65 and 6. The front door is about this much shorter. It's about 6 inches shorter. The post is moved shorter, and then it has the back door. And then they have a post right here. So in Impala four-door sedan, not that flat top, hard top, but the four-door Impala sedan, the BelAir, the Biscayne, they're all the same car. They have the same roof line, same glass, front and back. Impalas have a larger rear window, larger trunk. So what Dave at DD Speed Shop does is he gets a two-door door. He'll pull the front door and the back door off, mounts the front door, cuts out the post, and either uses the old post from the four-door or a post if he was able to get it from the donor car. And he gets the door on there, all in an episode, which he condenses some of it, but in an hour episode, he can get one tacked in crudely and get it moved over. And then later on, he takes the old door skin off. So I'm thinking that each side would be at least an afternoon to a guy who's done it for a while. But then he'll take this old skin and patch it in, and then all you have to do is find two-door chrome for it. But anyway, station wagons, four-door station wagons, they are the same body and size as this two-door sedan, just a different roof. They converted the four-door station wagons, they converted them into ambulances and hearses back in the 60s, in 1960. They didn't make very many, but that's what was done. But it is virtually the same car, front to back. It's just the door configuration, and roof line is a little bit different, depending if it's station wagon or the sedan. So, all right, I know I got a little long-winded on here. I'll do another video on some of the other cars in the garage then, just to keep this one short. But anyway, this car was fun to drive, as it is with this 348, but just lacked the fun that I used to like to do. I liked the way it sounded with the big cam in it, the big compression, you know, the big cubes, and it just didn't. I didn't take it. I didn't use it much anymore. You know, I didn't use it because it just wasn't as fun. I like going to car shows and everybody's like, "Hey, Zimmy, do a burnout," you know, because I would, you know, as long as the cops weren't around, we'd always do good burnouts with it and everything. And it, with this 348, it just really didn't have it. So, surfing around Facebook, and I find this bargain. This engine came out of, I believe, a 70 Chevelle. Guy put an LS in it. He must have been doing drugs or something to want to do that to a 70 Chevelle, but I know LS guys are LS guys, and dinosaurs like me are dinosaurs. We don't want much change. But anyway, I said to my wife, I said, hey, I can get this engine, this transmission with a 3000 stall converter. It was $1,500. I don't know anything about it. I was at a speed shop that did the conversion. The guy was nice enough to let me scope all the cylinders, and he didn't know anything about it, but it was a risk that I took. So I was planning on dropping this engine either into another car or into that. So that being said, over there in the corner, under my retro made street signs that I got from Brian's Street Signs at Carlisle, and I took a gun and shot a couple holes in them. Got a set of head and headers for it. So on a future episode of Dinosaur Garage, what we're going to do is we'll pull off the balancer, the front cover of this, and just go through a bunch of things, see what cam's in it, roll it over, see how the bearings are, see what the underside looks like, and hopefully drop it in. And we're going to convert it back to automatic, which I don't hope you say is going to be boring, but it's what we're going to do. We're going to put it back to what it was. So that's the plans for now. All right, well, thanks for watching. Sorry I don't have any car trivia as far as movies on this one, but there'll be plenty of time for that. So thanks for watching, and all right, so that ought to do it for this episode of Dinosaur Cars Garage. I hope you liked my storyline on the life of my 60 since I have it since 1985. I have it longer than my wife, so it's kind of my mistress, if you will. But I've thought about selling it a few times back in the late 80s when everybody else had GTOs, Chevelles, Novas, and I had a 283 in it. I just couldn't get it to go anywhere with that engine, and I actually ran it through an auto auction I worked at one time, and I think it did $3,300, and my buddies were like, sell it, buy something faster, and I'm like, I can't do it. So luckily I kept it, so it's still here. So all right, well, sorry there's no car trivia in this one. We'll catch up on a couple of other episodes. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe, tell your buddies. Please put some comments in the comment section, and let's get talking about some things, and hope you follow me. All right, well, have a great day, and see you on the flip side.